All right. Good morning, everyone. This is Rick at Studio USA. It is Winning Women's Wednesday, and I have Michelle Ozimi here with me.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. And we are flying the plane. We are building the plane in midair still.
Always.
But now today we are flying just the two of us. Just the two. Boy, child of the 70s there. So how are you doing?
I'm fantastic.
Right on.
Doing great. Got to see the solar eclipse.
That wasn't,
cool.
yeah.
It was cool.
That was kind of cool. And
Yeah.
my business partner and landlord, Daniel, he put this party patio on their headquarters over there. So it just
Nice.
worked out perfectly that we were up on the second floor. There was no obstructions, nothing. And I was not prepared for it to be dark in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was one of those things like I was like, okay, I'm going to check it out. It'll be cool. I was definitely impacted by it more than I thought I would be. I'm glad I
Same.
took the time. It was really cool.
Same.
Really fun.
And unfortunately, nobody posted about it on social media.
Not at all.
So
Not at all.
I don't really know anybody else's experience with what happened. Oh my Lord. So we are just a two-person booth today.
So we can have shenanigans.
Yes, we can.
It's
We
gonna be
are
fun.
totally
Watch out.
ungoverned. Yes,
Ungoverned.
we are ungoverned. And I also am having trouble with. I'm not sure what happened to the Oracle as far as where our previous topics went to. So hopefully it won't double dip us
That's
today.
all right.
But let's give this a whack here.
What do we got?
So this is the art of prompts. Give us a topic for a female-centric business podcast focusing on mindset and motivation, hosted by an idiot man. Period. Provide us with a quote from a famous person and a
Ooh.
topic.
I like the quote. We have dead air.
Boy, look. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry here. It's actually. So it says mind over matter.
Ooh.
Empowering women through tenacity and transformation.
Ooh, good one.
Here we go. The question isn't who is going to let me in, it's who is going to stop me. And that is Ayn Rand.
That is good.
So for all of us, for all of our objectivist folks out there, we are going down the Ayn Rand street. Okay, so I love the idea.
Done. Yeah.
Thank you, Oracle. So the idea of tenacity, that is something that so my social media feeds are usually ate up with hustle porn, where it's just nothing but like motivation. Rah,
Yes.
rah.
Yes.
And so it's very much a masculine thing. So
Sure.
I'm curious, as are there any gals that are, so like I could list off a ton of like the David Gogginses of the world, or the guys that are the, former like Jocko Willink, or the guys that are Joe Rogan that were either former fighters or just, fill in the blank of like whatever stereotypical masculine. So is there a female equivalent to that as far as like a business idol or the vision of tenacity and grit?
I think it comes off a little different. There
Okay.
absolutely is. I don't think it comes off as like when you talk about Jocko. He's kind of yelling and he's a little more aggressive in
Yeah.
his determination. Funny enough, I was reading from his book yesterday. It just looks different. I
Yes.
think with women, it's a little calmer. It's a little more inner game
Okay.
and a little more just structured. Like I feel like with men, it's just out there. Like, this is who I'm going to be. This is what I'm going to do.
So a more projected,
More
proactive.
projected.
Okay.
More projected. But when you look at successful women, oh my gosh, there's so many in so many different worlds. Brene Brown. And she's very calm, but
Yes.
she has a very clear sense of who she is and what she wants to accomplish. Trying to think. That's the hard part with the Oracle is you're not prepared.
Well, yeah, that to me is the double-edged sword.
Yes, and I
the
love it.
and the fun of it. And so like like what you're saying about like the Jockos and those guys of the world, where it's very much they come from like Navy SEALs,
Yeah.
or where they come from a background where you are literally imprinted
Yeah.
with that formula, and they tell you what to do. So I'm assuming and somewhat guessing that the female experience is not that. Where
No. Now, when you look at the Jockos of the world, so you start leaning more towards the athlete and that sort of thing, look at, is it Caitlin Carter, that just accomplished so much in basketball? She's absolutely tenacious.
Yes.
Absolutely tenacious. So on the athlete side, I think for the female that works. When you get into the professional business world, I think that in the past, and it's changing, but women had to be a little more subdued. Not submissive, but subdued in order to really be tenacious. Because I think if they were too vocal, they would be seen as troublemakers and difficult.
Yes.
And too opinionated.
Well, kind of like the gals we had last week, where they were talking about the male coaches coach the girls just as if they were boys.
Yes.
And so they kind of had that different approach where it's like, okay, stylistically and the angle that they're approaching it from, they were also basing that on their experience where, you know, there is that sort of almost stereotypical generic male. That's why I joke about the hustle porn thing where it's like, you know, get up at 5 a.m. or get up at 4 a.m. or get up at 3 a.m. or never go to bed, you know, and then go cold plunge and then just da-da-da.
Yeah.
I don't ever see that sort of thing replicated in the female world. Where
No, it's very different. And in fact, the morning routine is very different for the female. I mean, we still work out, we still read our Bible, we still do our devotionals and we write, but it's a much calmer process. I don't think any female, at least that I know, is jumping into a cold plunge pool. That doesn't sound pleasant.
I do know one or two that have them, but I would bet, if I had to bet my own money, I bet that they have it because of the man that they live with.
Yeah, no, thank you. No need for that. So
Right. Well, and it's like, hey, I'm not running out to do any kind of polar bear swim either. So now on the female perspective, because like a lot of times with the man side, it is based on what you can quantify and what you can track. So
Yeah.
I would say that that's probably analogous though too, right?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. I think more and more as we're seeing women enter fields in the STEM realm, they're just as analytical and just as interested in the spreadsheets and the facts and the numbers and the tracking as men. And I think they have just as much desire to move forward. They're just going to do it in a different way.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now, do you think? So I can, you know, it's funny too because it's like you hear like, oh, you know, there are not enough girls in STEM or whatever. But it's like I can remember a point in time whenever I was young that like all of the smartest folks in the room on those subjects were the girls.
Yeah.
And then I guess it's somewhere. Is that sort of like conditioned out of y'all, or is it something?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. We learn differently. So it's not so much that it's conditioned out of us. We could do a whole show on the American education system. But it's not that it's conditioned out of us. It's teachers teach one way, which God bless the teachers.
Like you mean so basically like teach to the test.
They teach to the test.
Yes.
And for some girls and boys too, that's not how they learn. And so that's why they become less involved in the science, the technology, those types of things, because just the way our brains are, we navigate more towards the literature and the writing and the history and those types of subjects.
Okay. I always get it backwards, which is left and right brain.
Oh, I don't know. I can't remember that either.
Well, whichever it is, it's that one.
It's that one. Yeah.
And so my sort of take on the educational system was it was really designed just so you would be trained to work in a factory.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, it's like you go to a place and they tell you to do a thing, then the bell rings, then you do a different thing, and then the bell rings and you go back to doing the other thing. And then they would probably, you know, maybe skim the cream off the top.
Yeah.
You know, but like the standardized test, teaching to the test, like one of the things that got me into a lot of trouble in life was that I do well on standardized tests.
Yeah.
And so, you know, much like in the sales world, production covers a multitude of sins.
Absolutely.
So does testing well, you know. And so I was left alone a lot, or left to my own devices, because for the outward, you know, appearance, I'm at the top of everything, you know, like gifted and talented and all that ridiculousness. And it was just the idle, you know, the idle hands.
Yeah. Yes, I
was
understand.
Absolutely the devil's workshop. And now I really wouldn't change anything that way, but I have to learn everything the hard way as well.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, I think now, you know, like the guys that work for me, they're all in their 20s, and it's like, wow, if I was that together and that sort of like dedicated and nose to the grindstone or whatever, I'd be like the governor of California, or the governor of Texas, or something. Not the governor of California.
Maybe not California.
That would require me to be in California, which I
True.
won't. But the idea of teaching to the test, whether it be boy or girl, that just sort of leads to like this formulaic approach to everything. And then I've known folks that, myself included, whenever I suddenly realized like, oh, life is nothing like the standardized test.
No.
Then what? So now from yours, so like with us in on the guy side of the equation, it's just like you basically just, you get your ass kicked, and then how do you handle that? You know? And so a big part of even now the guys that would work for me or the guys that I would sponsor or what have you, it becomes this thing of, you know, the Mike Tyson quote, everybody's got to play until they're punched in the face.
Yeah.
You know, and really it doesn't matter how you react. It just matters that you keep going.
And that's where I feel like men and women are different, and women have to learn to overcome that. Men, they will have an experience and it goes poorly, and they are happy to learn from that experience and just keep going. There's no pouting, there's no thinking about it or analyzing it 100 different ways. They just keep going.
How much of that do you think is nature and nurture? Because I've known some soft ass guys that were like, and I was sure in hindsight now I would look back and say that was just anxiety or that was just imposter syndrome or whatever, but it manifested as like, you know, they got punched in the face and then it was like, oh, I suck. I can't, you know, then that fear kicks in or whatever. Now they're afraid to get punched again, which that's a reasonable, you know, human reaction or whatever. However, there's fists flying always.
In business, absolutely.
In business.
And I think it's nature, the ones who can move forward. Like, I think it's innate in them and they're ready. I think women have that less. And in fact, in my coaching, one of the things that I teach women is plan your failure. Like, set a fail goal. You know, we do a lot of, as realtors, as salespeople, we do cold calling. We do all types of things in any sales business. You have things you have to do where you're getting rejected.
Yes.
So set a goal. I'm going to fail 30 times before I get that appointment, before I get that listing, so then as you're failing forward, you're accomplishing something.
Okay, so like not quite gamifying, but you're certainly taking, there, I would say like, okay, that's a very masculine approach where it's like, okay, you know, for example, okay, Babe Ruth or Ted Williams or whatever, they batted, say, 350 to 400. Okay, well, that means they struck out 6 times out of 10.
And they knew, they had their stats and their numbers, and they knew that was what it was going to take, and they were okay with it. Whereas women, the imposter syndrome and the fear and all the things kick in, and they will step back and say, okay, I'm going to wait. I've made 3 calls, or I've done this 3 times and it hasn't worked out. So, you know, I'm just going to go back over here to what I know. That's not great, but I'm going to keep doing it.
Yeah, it's like, it's hell, but it's my hell.
Yes,
and
exactly.
It's familiar.
Exactly.
Which that happens a lot in the world of recovery and stuff.
Absolutely,
too. Where it's like, it's like, you know, from sitting over here in the bleachers, that looks like it sucks, you know.
But it's your comfort level.
Exactly, but for somebody's in it. So now, how do you break them out of that comfort? I mean, I guess it presupposes that they want to break out.
They have to want it. I mean, definitely they have to decide that this goal is worth it for me. And I know it's going to be hard, but I'm willing to do the work if you'll guide me and hold me accountable.
Okay, so that it's almost like they have to have some sort of like aha moment or like personal come to Jesus moment. Because like the thing last week that was really fascinating to me that I didn't want to, you know, really bow up and be like the idiot guy or whatever at the table. More than any.
It was a sensitive topic.
Yes.
Yeah.
But like more about the coaching.
Yeah.
Versus the other, it's like I have a lot of dealings with that in the recovery world. So like, I would tread lightly on that no matter what. But given the everything in total, it was, my curiosity was the male coaching versus the female coaching. My first thought is like, oh my God, why would a dude want to coach girls soccer anyhow? Like, oh Lord. And then I thought, well, maybe they got a kid, you know, or whatever.
Yeah.
But then it becomes that living vicariously. And now are they just treating the girl like a boy?
And I think that's what we run into as women and as daughters that are in athletics. You do see that a lot. That's changing. I'm seeing more and more of that changing. But I was interested that in the soccer community, so many male coaches still dominating.
Well, in there, I would be curious because I'm always fascinated how this stuff shakes out as far as just the stats, just the numbers. So I would think that there would be some aspects of that hard-nosed, ass-kicking, just kind of Vince Lombardi grind it mentality. That's going to power through some stuff that a softer approach just wouldn't, or might not even go in the direction of. So is there such a thing as that, just sort of where you might overcome some of the statistical shortcomings just by brute force?
I think it depends on who you're dealing with. So absolutely. Now we are talking about 6-year-old girls.
Right.
So I don't know that Vince Lombardi comes into play.
Right.
But on a different level, if you're talking about professional sports, then yeah, they're there to do a job. And there's a responsibility for them to achieve. So a good coach is going to figure out what makes that team achieve. And for some gals, it can be brute force. I was in a job, one of my first jobs, many, many years ago. And it was toxic and vicious to everyone, not just the males or not just the females. It was everyone. But it was a sales job. We had sales to meet, or we were going to be let go. And I had a family to feed, so I was going to meet those sales. So yeah, the brute force in that situation worked. Did I thrive? Did I enjoy it? Did I stay there long? Absolutely not. So as the leader in that circumstance, what do you want the results to be? You might make the numbers for the month, but are you going to be rehiring people every quarter?
And to that, having my same exact experience, and this will be interesting because this is where we're different. So I would say the managers that I know, what up, Jacob, that the brute force was the thing. And we got the numbers, and there wasn't too terribly high of a turnover, but by any objective HR department measure or whatever, it would have been, quote, toxic.
Sure.
However, I loved it.
Okay, you thrived.
And I loved the idea of you're coming in there and you're either, it's very much a Shark Tank, and it's very much kill or be killed, and it's straight commission at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Because if you don't produce, you're fired.
Yeah.
So it's you eat what you kill, and there is nobody there to hold your hand. And so, and like there, I don't know if that was just nature, nurture, luck of the draw or whatever, but I loved it. And I loved thriving. And then now,
would you still love it? Because there's also seasons of life, whether you're male or
that's
female.
That's true. And where I was going with that is if I would have sucked at it, because because where I was going with this, and to dovetail back to the coaching part, where it's like, if you are physically gifted and athletically gifted, so like say I was gifted, like I love the sound of my own voice, and it's like I can talk.
And great hair.
That costs money. But if
doesn't everything.
But if you can sell, you can get it all sorted out. But the idea of it's a coin toss. Whether did I love it because I was good at it, or was I good at it because I could handle it, and then that forced me. And that's what I was meaning by the brute force.
Yeah.
Where it's like, because there's that certain thing of any new endeavor, you suck. You know,
For sure.
The first time you hit the piano keys, or the first time I picked up a guitar or whatever, I was just god awful. And I'm slightly less god awful now.
Right.
But there is that thing of, do you think that's part of like fighting through the part of the, when we were talking earlier about fighting through the obstacles or the, because it's like, there are certain things that you do that you just like them. And so that sort of overcomes any barrier that is from a skill deficit.
Yes, because whether you're male or female, I think that if you are loving it, then you're going to take the time and the education and the accountability to get over that hump.
Versus if you don't love it, but you got to do it, which is like I don't know, which is better, the brute force of the Lombardi style?
Well, you may do it, but you're not going to stay. You're going to be looking for the next thing. And I think that's okay, because if you're not happy in what you're doing, you shouldn't stay miserable forever.
True.
So
yeah, and there's something about the American work ethic at times where it's like just to be put upon.
Yeah.
And just to, like, oh, it works, whatever. Now, I'm at a place now where, yes, I do work 7 days a week, but it's like I love it. And it's like I have a toy box.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like we're literally sitting in my the extension of what would be a man cave or whatever.
Oh, for
you know?
sure. It's amazing.
Well, thank you. But there is that part of it that this is just an extension of my person. That's why now the refrigerator looks like a guitar amp and there's guitars over there. I decided to lean in to the ridiculousness of some of the aspects of my personality, and it's a lot more fun.
Absolutely.
And there's something about that.
Do you think that came with age?
That's certainly a factor.
Okay.
Yes. There are certain things that I think you age out of, which and it's so weird because until you actually have it happen,
Yeah.
that it seems like just a cliche.
Yeah.
Where, I no longer care about a lot of things that used to, there might be something where I would notice it in the mirror. I would notice it walking by and be like, man, that would have used to bothered me a long time ago. However, no, the hair still does. And now I'm not going to be one of those guys that does the Jerry Jones or whatever, but it's like, I don't like the evidence of aging.
No one does.
Yeah.
It sucks.
Yeah, it is. It is just.
That's why you've got the best cameras.
Yeah, and like sooner or later we're probably going to do like the old school Hollywood Vaseline on the lens or whatever, where we all look like Sybil Shepherd in Moonlighting.
Oh, I love it. Moonlighting. Oh my goodness.
How
That's
about
a good
that?
one.
How about that for a callback?
Wow.
The original rom-com
Yes.
of shows, and that's where Bruce Willis became a star.
Yes, love him.
Yeah, and I actually really liked that show, which I'm not sure where my head was at back then, but it translated well into Die Hard, which came next, and that's much more in my wheelhouse.
There you go.
Because now I am truly a child of the '80s, so it's interesting now to see whenever I would show like my guys or whatever the standard operating like assembly line stuff that I grew up with.
Yeah.
Where there was the jingoistic stuff, where it's like, woo, like the flag and this, that, and the other thing. And just the ridiculousness of like Rocky IV, where he's fighting the 700-pound Russian guy that, they show the graphics where it's literally like he's hitting 2,000 pounds per square inch. And it's like, wait a minute, that would liquefy his insides if he just hit him once. But, I eat
Very
it up.
manly.
But yeah, and I still to this day, and it's like I was watching a documentary the other night on I think Peacock. It was about John Wayne.
Wow.
And it was about John Wayne manufacturing his personality, and because it's like his real name's Marion Morrison.
Yeah.
And that it had his youngest son was there, and then a bunch of other Hollywood luminaries that had interacted with him over the years. But going back to like we were talking about, like that male imprint. So I was raised very much in a John Wayne syndrome kind of a family.
Okay. Where John Wayne wasn't even John Wayne.
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Which is the supreme irony that John Wayne isn't John Wayne. Like John Wayne created John Wayne. The only thing John Wayne was big. He was like 6'5" and just physically imposing.
He was like the original imposter syndrome.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
And the fact that like the whole 1950s pop culture, or there's certainly a sliver of it that is completely that. And
For sure.
completely manufactured. Back in the days too, whenever Hollywood was just all smoke and mirrors,
Yes.
and you never got past that. Versus now, where like every goofball that's on TV has an Instagram or whatever, and you can see right through it. And it's really disappointing now because it's like I do like that sort of illusion.
Yes. It was magical.
Yes, this is why I love pro wrestling. Not that I ever thought it was real, but it was like I loved wrestling.
You and The Rock.
Yes.
He's back.
Yeah. So a friend of mine, I watched that. That's a whole nother situation. But like the John Wayne thing, they talked about where that imposter syndrome ate him alive and drove him to an alcoholic death over his life because he played these hard ass, badass guys in World War II or whatever, and he never went. They said that deep down he was afraid to go.
Wow.
And that he had this weird manifestation of survivor's guilt.
Yeah.
From not going and then acting like
making money off of.
Yeah. And
interesting.
Yeah. So like when his family came out and said all of that, so it's like the imposter syndrome. We come by it honestly.
We do. Yeah.
Yeah. We absolutely
sure.
come by it honestly.
Yeah.
And so now how does that work where do women have, so like where I'm going with this is it's very easy for me to see and sort of deconstruct like all the examples of my childhood where it was like, okay, it was the John Wayne thing where it's like you just stuff it and you act like nothing ever happened. So what is is there a female version of that?
Oh, I think absolutely. You see all the happy homemakers on television, and I don't even think you have to see them on television. You see them in real life. Oh my goodness. I think the most challenging thing for me was back when one of the kids was in elementary school and there was a cupcake baking contest. And I'm like, oh, this will be so fun. Me and Gracie are going to bake cupcakes. And I'm not a baker. And this was like 3rd grade. And so we like really went after it. So we baked these cupcakes and I tried to decorate them. And we go to drop off our entry into the contest, and I don't know who they had. They must have all been friends with Martha Stewart because these cupcakes were absolutely insane.
Showroom ready.
Oh, unreal. And all I could think was, I don't even like baking. I've spent 2 days doing this just to make her happy because she likes to bake. Or back then she did. And it was so heartbreaking. And it was like, oh, I have to work and I have to do all these things. And I did. I just felt like such an imposter because here's all these beautiful baked goods and mine tasted good, I think. Maybe.
So, okay. So now I'm curious so like we all know, or it's very easy to track, like whatever young dudes are looking at or into nowadays, that would represent like what represents status for men. So what is it that, cause like for men, it's, a car, a watch, a very, very much a material thing. So what would represent status for a female in 2024?
I think it depends on the age and the season of life. So
okay, yeah. So subtracting out the idea that you would age out of stuff.
So now it's the bags and the purses, and and who the events you get invited to, those types of things. But I notice, and I'm kind of bad about this myself. So my daughter is in high school. So it's how smart is she?
Really?
What school is she going to go to? What she got on her SAT? Those types of things. Because we all want our kids to do great and we're living vicariously through them in one way or another. So it's that sort of thing.
Okay, so that's wow. So then now what is it for your daughter actually for her? So if it's the mom that is now, okay, like I understand that the show pony aspect of the kid, where the kid is almost just an accessory.
Yes.
Where it's like, look what I made.
Yes. I did this.
Yeah.
Finally, something worked.
Like it's a crafts, like an arts and crafts
for
project.
sure.
Now, for the kid, what is status now?
That is a great question.
Would it be like maybe like social media followers or some sort of?
I think they're coming out of that.
Really?
Like, I think in some ways, the generation. So my daughter's 17; she's a junior.
Is that Gen Z still?
I think so.
Okay.
I think that group is just kind of over it.
Wow. Okay, so that gives hope for humanity right there.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think for them, well, they're all COVID kids. So they don't really know how to communicate with each other. None of them want to drive.
As if the pre-COVID kids were
fair.
good at it. Yeah.
That's
but
fair.
No, but I mean, like, I say that only half kidding because I still don't really know what I'm,
Amen.
But the idea of, I look back whenever, I was 17 we were just idiots.
Oh, yeah. I wanted my car and I wanted to go to the parties and just not get caught.
Yes.
And I always did, but
I see that now to dovetail back again, because I tested well on standardized tests and I was able to present well. As it wasn't until the 11th hour that there were any cracks in the paint or that the quarter panel was dented or whatever. And by then
it had gone too far.
Oh yeah, by then it's like you're in another time zone. It's like, forget about it. There's no putting the toothpaste back in the tube.
For sure.
But I like the idea that the kids are now, and it's so funny too, because I look back at the ridiculousness of the icons and the things that I had as a kid.
Oh yeah.
But there's still a part of me that loves it.
Yeah.
And then it's like, man, that was just such a hollow pursuit. And there's the part of me, but I like hollow pursuits.
Right?
I
right?
enjoy,
Let me enjoy something.
I enjoy them.
Yeah.
And so I always think, so technically I consider myself an optimistic nihilist.
Yes.
Where
I like it.
It's basically like, oh yeah, we're going to hell in a handbasket. No doubt about it. However, the human spirit has the ability to pull it out of the ditch at any time, given enough impetus. The question is, will we?
So that's a great question. I do feel like this generation that's coming has a huge spirit for that. They care more about the environment, people, those types of things than I feel like any generation before them. The problem is I don't know that they have the gumption like us Gen X people did. And that
tenacity.
Yeah, the tenacity. Exactly. Good one. Yes.
Yes.
Way to go.
Yeah, we brought it back.
We brought it back.
Yes.
And that's where I see, like, they need those mentors. And that's what, and especially I feel like women are really bad about asking for mentorship and wanting to be, that's one of the biggest things I see women suffer with. They talk about how lonely they are, especially as entrepreneurs and realtors,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. But then you invite them into a community and they don't want to be a part of it because they don't want people to see their real struggles.
Right.
It's keeping it,
Well, in the
keeping it behind the glass.
The colossal irony of that is, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on your position,
Right.
that is the deal.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to try to quote studies or paraphrase or whatever, but the opposite of addiction is community.
Yeah.
I know that they've done the thing with the rats or whatever, and the rat does the cocaine until it kills itself. However, when they put a rat in with other rats and the cocaine button, they don't hit the cocaine button.
Because community is so, so important. And it's so strange how we try so hard not to be a part of it. Even though we desperately need it, we really want it. And by having that mentorship and that community, we can bridge all of our strengths together. And that's how we can really make an impact.
Yes.
And I do feel like as men, you guys do a better job of that, though I am seeing it less and less. And
Well,
again, it's
the thing
COVID.
that worries me about that is I always preface any of my interactions with my guys or whatever, whenever it's just the guys. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, we're just the guys. And
Which
there's
is
just,
great.
There's just some stuff, like wedgies or swirlies, or that it just is.
Yes.
And the idea that you're going to like legislate that out of, that's a bad idea.
Yeah.
And there's this certain male behavior. The joke is men insult each other and don't mean it. Women compliment each other and don't mean it.
Agreed.
And somehow that became the accepted dynamic. And I think if everybody kind of got somewhere in the middle.
Yes.
Because like dudes never compliment each other. It is like just one bust.
Yes.
One after the other, which I love. However, I have
It's
to
affectionate.
Yeah, well, and I have to force and we always would joke in like my circle of friends or whatever, if we don't make fun of you, it means we don't like you.
Right. Understood.
Yeah. Not in a malicious or
We're not comfortable enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you're just not
Yeah.
one of us yet.
Once we can really give you a hard time, it's because we're comfortable with you.
Yes.
Yeah, I totally get that.
And so I try to encourage that with the dudes that work for me, and they don't really have a choice. So I
Sorry,
suppose,
guys.
So I suppose the ones that stay, they're okay with it.
Yeah, there you go.
And well, this was awesome. This was an awesome
So
off the cuff.
fun.
Yes. And so next week we are going to be
So excited.
experimenting live. So I have the hotspot. We're probably going to
So
test.
are we actually, is it going to be live?
We'll try.
Oh, it's going to be so
Well,
good.
let's put that in the maybe category.
Yeah.
We might be live. It'll be recorded one
For
way or
sure.
the other. One way or the other. So it'll either go up later that day or we'll go live and record it too.
So fun.
So
And
we got the
it's-
hotspot.
Yeah, the Oaklawn Metro Tax meeting.
Yes. So we're crossing all the streams. We're going to do Winning Women's Wednesday. We're going to have Michelle. We're going to have the current president of Metrotex, Ashley Gentry. And we're going to have
Yay.
Sarah Parker Jones from my leadership class, class 26, best class ever.
It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, have you done, or have you considered leadership?
I have considered it. I'll have to
should.
look into
Yes.
it. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yes.
Very
I
cool.
am loving my time with Metrotex right now. I'm having
Right
a
on.
blast. Yeah, it's so good.
Are you going to go to the white party?
I think I am. Yes,
So
it's
we'll
on
be
the
there.
calendar.
Yeah, we'll be there shooting it.
Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait.
Yes.
So,
That's the day after.
yes, it's going to be a busy week.
Yes.
So everybody watch, and if you're a member of Metrotex, come to the meeting. It's
Or
at
not,
9 a.m.
or not. They'll take they'll sign you up
25
right there.
bucks. They'll take your 25 bucks too.
And they'll sign you up right there
Yeah.
and get your dues processed.
It's a great breakfast, and you get to see me and Rick. It's going to be so fun.
Yes, and we'll be live.
Yeah,
Probably.
hopefully.
Cool. Thank you, Peter. Let's go.
Thanks, guys.